Hi guys, I'm Anita and I'm back with another video, and today is time for my R Fantasy Bingo TBR. Now the R Fantasy Bingo is a challenge that is occurring every year from April 1st until March 31st, and it's a bingo board where you have 25 different squares to fill out and you can challenge yourself in different ways. This year there's both regular mode and hard mode if you want to. I'm gonna do the hard challenges whenever I can, but I don't want to have to buy a specific book in order for it to work for the hard challenge. And I haven't put any books like for certain down that I'm gonna read for each challenge, but I will be putting them as they go, unless I've already read some, because we are in the middle of April and I have read some fantasy books that works for some of the categories, so I will mention those when I go. And the challenge also is that you are not supposed to read more than one author, and you cannot use the same author more than once, and you cannot do reread more than once, and you can't use books that you're over halfway through when you start April. I know a bunch of people on BookTube are already participating in this. I saw Shannon from Shannon Riddler and I saw Becky from Beck's Books. They're both having their TBRs up. Becky is going to challenge herself with possibly 3 different bingo boards, which I think is insane. And I think one of them is going to be only women authors and the other one will be her Kindle books or something, and I don't remember what the third one was that she was contemplating. I know that Shannon is trying to go through one row at a time, making a TBR for that, so it's more structured like that, and I think that's also an interesting way of tackling it. I will just be trying to work on it from month to month, and I think my plan is for my wrap-ups, I will add the books and let you know which books works for the bingo board whenever I do a wrap-up. And so hopefully this will keep me motivated to find books for all of the squares. But anyway, this is the bingo board. I'll put a picture of it up on the screen and I'll go over the different tasks for the bingo board, row by row, task for task. So starting out with the first row, the first square is read a novel that was reviewed on R Fantasy by someone. For this I'm gonna go with, I think, Kings of the Wild, because I'm reading it right now and it is one of those books that has been reviewed. The hard challenge would be read a book, review it yourself on R Fantasy Bingo, and that way make it a little harder. The second challenge on this row is read a novel that features a non-Western setting, and for this one I've already read a book that fits for this one, and I read The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. I just finished that yesterday, and that is a Russian setting, so it's not an Western setting. And Western settings is including US, Canada, Western Europe, Australia, New Zealand. So Russian folklore stuff would work for this, because it's Eastern Europe, obviously. And challenge number 3 is read 5 short stories. And the hard challenge is read an entire anthology. I forgot to write down what the hard challenge was for the second one, but the hard challenge for the 5 short stories is to read a whole short story collection. I read a couple of short story collections. I just bought Robots vs. Fairies, which is a short story collection, so I hope that I'll be reading that and then that could work for this. But I also have a couple of other short story collections already that I own, so we'll see which one I get to first. Square number 4 is read a novel that has been adapted onto stage, screen, or a game. And the hard one would be if it has been adapted to more. I could read like the last Dresden Files book because it's been adapted to a TV show and it's also a graphic novel form, so that's a different format at least. Otherwise I could read The Last Wish by Andrzej Sapkowski, because his first book in the Witcher series, and the Witcher series is inspiring video game with the same name called The Witcher, and I am not halfway through it yet, so it could work. And it's pretty short, so, but it hasn't been adapted to a TV show or a movie, I think. So can't really use it for the hard challenge if I do finish it. The fifth square on this row is read a hopeful speculative fiction book in the vein of The Wayfarers, The Goblin Emperor, or Heart Strikers. But the thing is, the hard challenge is to pick something that is in the same vein, but it's not one of those three books that were suggested. So, but I don't know. It's just the book should just be the opposite of a grim dark sort of book. So I think the problem is I don't know what exactly is expected of the fantasy. I mean, hopeful. So this is one of those I'm a little unsure about, but I will see what I pick up as I go. And now on to the second row. First square is a fantasy novel that takes place entirely in one city, and the hard challenge would be that the city that is set in is also an alternate fantasy world. So it's a city in a fantasy world. And as of right now, I can't think of anything because all of the fantasy books, like in a fantasy setting, they're always on some sort of quest. I was just sort of thinking of Mistborn, but then I remembered that they switch to another place, at least in Well of Ascension. So yeah, that doesn't work at least. I don't know. I can't think of anything right now. The second square on the second row is read a self-published novel, and the hard challenge would be that it has less than 50 ratings. I'm thinking of maybe adding Pelham when it releases by Lil McNeil. Otherwise, I have a bunch of NetGalley books which I'm pretty sure does not have very many ratings, and I'm pretty sure the majority of those are self-published as well. So we'll see what I end up choosing for this one. Square number 3 on this row is read a novel published before you were born. The hard challenge would be at least 10 years before I was born, and for that I could read The Hobbit. Finally, it's like a 50s fantasy classic, so obviously that's older than me. If you're wondering, I'm 86, so it has to be 76 or earlier for the hard challenge. And I also put down Dragonflight by Anne McCaffrey because that is from 1968. And then we have A Wizard of Earthsea, which I forgot. I think it's the start of the 70s. Square number 4 on this row is any fantasy Goodreads book of the month. And the hard one would be the current book of the month. And I looked at the current book of the month. I don't know. I already read that. That was the All Systems Red. But maybe I've already read Sandland Ascents, which was one of the book of the month prior months. So I don't know if I'm gonna put that down there, but that will not be the hard challenge then. Otherwise, I'll have to check what book of the month they are gonna have in the future, and if I can jump in on some of the readings for that, or if I read something for that and then use that for that square. But we'll see. The fifth square on this row is read a novel featuring a library. The hard one would be where the library has an integrated part of the plot. Integral part of the plot. I can't read my own handwriting, so. For that, I was thinking of reading the 5th Mythos Academy book, which is Midnight Frost, because I don't know, this is not regular fantasy set in urban, like in our world, but it's set on a boarding school, and the main character is working at the library, sort of, and a lot of things goes down at the library. It's always one of the focal points in the books, because they have a lot of ancient artifacts that people are after, that they can use for evil stuff, and that's displayed in the library, so therefore the library has a big function in this world, so I think that might be able to work. Now onto the third row, where the first square is historical fantasy or alternate history, and the hard challenge of this would be read a book that is not UK or US. For this I could use Bear and Nightingale, but as I've already used that for a square, The City of Brass is a BookTube SF Awards thing, and it is set in Egypt in a historical setting. I don't know when. It was tagged historical fiction, and set in Cairo. So that could work, and I'm planning on reading that next month, so that is exciting. For the second square on the third row, it's a novel published in 2018. And the hard challenge would be that it would also be a debut novel at the same time. And for that one, I'm thinking of using Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi, because that is definitely a debut novel and it's a 2018 release, so it could work. But it depends on when I get my hands on that copy. Maybe if I read something else beforehand, I'll use that. The third challenge on this row is read a novel featuring a protagonist who's a writer, artist, or musician, not the Kingkiller Chronicles. And the hard challenge would be where magic is linked to it or their ability with the music, artistic, or whatever sort of ability they have. I was sort of thinking if Moving Pictures by Terry Pratchett would use, because I think this is like the Discworld version of Hollywood. And I don't know if that could work. I mean, actors are sort of artists, so it could work, possibly. The fourth challenge on this row is read a book featuring a mountain setting. And the hard challenge would be where the mountain is like whatever is going on. It's inside the mountain, in the caves or underground, or something of like with the mountains. But I haven't thought of anything right now. I don't know. It depends on what I end up reading and if something works for that, because I haven't a specific book pick out for this. So if you have some recommendations, definitely put them down below. That would be nice. And the fifth challenge on this row is read an 2017 art fantasy top novel list book. And the hard challenge would be read a book that's from the bottom half of the list. And I have put down Red Sister by Mark Lawrence, which was like in the bottom, I think one of the last 5 of the list or something. The Book of the Ancestor series was on there, and that is Red Sister and Grey Sister currently. Otherwise, I also have my audio of Grace of Kings that I can get to by Ken Liu, which also was down there with Dandelion Dynasty. The fourth row across where the first square is read a novel with fewer than 2,500 ratings on Goodreads. The hard challenge would be read one with fewer than 500. So I went in, and what you also have to consider is don't take a new one when you know it's going to be one of those really popular ones that within a couple of months it might have 5,000 of reviews because people are anxiously waiting for it to be released. So those type of books doesn't work. If you read something and you can see that it's generally has been out for a while, you don't think it's going to be a really popular book, then it's okay, I guess, because you don't expect it to suddenly get a burst of reviews and ratings and stuff. For this, I have put down 3 different books that I can read that has less than 500 reviews, and has been released for more than a year. So I feel like it would be a safe choice. The first one of those is Sisters of the Crescent Empress, which is the sequel to 5 Daughters of the Moon, which has only 48 ratings on Goodreads. This is the sequel to a duology, and so it was released last year. So this one is one of those that, but since it only has 48 reviews now, which it was released in around August or something last year, I feel like it's safe to choose this, and it will surpass at least 2,500 over this next year. Then I also have Behind the Mask, a superhero anthology, which has only 60 reviews. This was also a 2017 release. So yeah, but since it only has 60 releases, I feel like it's okay. And then I have finally The Dragon Blade, The Reborn King by Michael R. Miller, which has 415 reviews currently. So it's closing in on 500 reviews, but it has been out since 2015, so I think that it's not one of those that immediately surpasses 500, but it will definitely not surpass 2,500. That's what I'm thinking. The second square on this row is read a book with a one-word title. The hard one would be only one single syllable. I found a couple of one-word titles, but they all had more than one syllable just when I was sort of browsing through. So we'll see if I find something that has only one syllable, and that is what I'll go with for this one. Otherwise, I'll just use a regular one-word title. The third challenge on this row was read a book with a god as a character. The hard one will be that the protagonist is a god. For this, I'm thinking of Percy Jackson, Rick Riordan's books being an easy choice because he always has half gods and gods in his books. But for the hard challenge, then it should be probably the Apollo series, because Apollo has been stripped of his powers, but he is a god. So yeah, it could be that. I don't really like that series, so I don't know. Otherwise, I'll have to see if I can think of something. Then there's challenge number 4, which is read a book with an author writing under a pseudonym. The hard one will be where the author has more than one pseudonym that they write under, and I'm sort of thinking Robin Hobb would be the easy choice because he writes Robin Hobb is the pen name for Megan something. I forgot her surname. But I don't know. I don't think she writes under multiple pseudonym names. For a hard one, I could use the Amanda Quick book. I forgot what the book was. But I have recently purchased one by her on my Kindle, and she writes under Amanda Quick, Jane, Anne Krentz, and Jane Castle. Those 3 different author names, and the author names are used for different sort of genres. I think Amanda Quick is fantasy and historical fiction, Jane Castle is urban fantasy, paranormal romance, and Jane Anne Krentz is her sort of contemporary suspense novels thingies. So yeah. But as I said, it could be that I find something else that could be used for this. The 5th challenge on this row is a subgenre, and that is space opera. And the hard challenge would be the main character is not a space pirate or in the military. And my obvious choice would be, since I just purchased this, Space Opera by Catherine M. Valente. So I think that's what I'm gonna go with. This just Eurovision in space. So I don't really need to think too much about that. And I don't think it has space pirates or military people as the main protagonists. But we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. The 5th row across the first square is read a standalone fantasy. For that one, I'll be reading Song of Achilles. When I went into April, I was only about a third of the way through the book, so I could use that still because I'm not halfway. And now I'm halfway, but it is 2 weeks into April, and that is a standalone book, so I could use that. The second challenge is read a novel by an RRAWR author, author, which I think was a Reddit, no, I forgot what the acronym stands for, or Keeping Up with the Classics, and I think I'm gonna go with the Keeping Up with the Classics because as I look through this, the lists, the authors that was on the other one, I already read the books that were featured there, or I didn't have access to any of them. They're new authors, self-published authors, a lot of them, so I'd have to go and buy a couple of books. And as I said, I'd try to minimize the amount of books that I buy for this challenge. But Keeping Up with the Classics, that could be something like Ursula K. Le Guin or some other as well that I forgot right now, but there was definitely a lot more for me to choose between. The 3rd challenge on this row was read a novel from the R Fantasy LGBTQ+ database. The hard challenge would be to read one that was not featured on the database, but that it features an LGBTQ+ themes. So I'll read something, check if it's on the database thing, and add it if it doesn't, and then it fulfills the hard challenge. The 4th square on this row was read a graphic novel or an audiobook, and the hard challenge would be the graphic novel cannot be saga. which I also find a little bit weird because it's not fantasy, and I'm very strict when it comes to this, that this category, that it should be a fantasy sort of graphic novel. So, but I read Monsters Volume 2, and I plan on hopefully also finishing. My favorite thing is monsters, so I can use that. But if I end up doing the audio thing, it should be an audio that's over 25 hours. But for me, the audio challenge is also too easy because I listen to so many audios, and a lot of those books are over 25 hours. So yeah, I don't know. The final challenge on this row was read a book featuring Faye. I forgot what the hard one was. I didn't put that down. But it could be the next Fever book whenever I get to that, or whatever I figure I wanted to read. There's Faye in a lot of types of books. It could also be a new Mercy Thompson books. It could be, maybe I have an urban fantasy that I'm gonna read that has Faye. We'll see about that. So this were all of the squares, all of the tasks for the AR Fantasy Bingo. Let me know in the comments down below if you're participating in it. Do you have any recommendations for any of the squares that I haven't already a suggestion for? Then definitely let me know in the comments, and I'll try and figure out if it's something I can get my hands on without having to buy it. So yeah, if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next video very soon. Bye!